All right, y'all are live, back alive again.
Does everybody see that it's live on YouTube right now?
Yep.
Are we? Oh, yeah.
Okay. Just making sure.
Yeah, I see live. GW, you look quite dapper tonight.
Well, it's a council meeting. I always wear a coat and tie at a council meeting.
I wasn't speaking of that.
All out of respect for you, Councilman Jenkins.
Thank you.
There we go.
Waiting on the ring 6 times. Since it's right over my head. Ring 6 times. Call the council meeting to order. This time I'd like to ask Councilman Jenkins to have the invocation for us.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight in thanksgiving for our town, our state, and our country, and for all our employees and citizens. In the middle of this pandemic, we ask that you keep your comforting and healing touch on each and every one of us. We ask you to especially watch over and keep safe all those who watch over us, our police, firefighters, first responders, and all those in our military. We ask for the presence of your Holy Spirit tonight to guide us in all our discussions and decisions, that we may do what we do might be for the betterment of our citizens, and most of all, bring glory to your name. We ask all this in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Can we stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic, one nation, under God, indivisible,
God,
liberty and
indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Too good a unity, but that's all right. We gotta say it. All right, now we need to approve some minutes from the previous meetings. I have a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion that we approve the minutes of the previous meetings on June 11th, the 2 meetings, and June 29th, as well as July 3rd, and at the same time.
I second that.
Okay, motion made. We have we got a motion made and seconded that we approve the meetings, the full special meetings we had, and well, the town council meeting and the 3 special meetings we had. Made any discussion on this? If not, all in favor signify by raising your right hand. Opposed likewise, ayes carry. Okay, at this time, we're going to hear a presentation from the Greater Somerville, Dorchester County Chamber of Commerce.
All right, Ms. Carey.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for having me here tonight. I'm Carrie Bovender. I'm a local business owner and the 2020 board chair for the Greater Somerville, Dorchester County Chamber of Commerce. And I'm joined tonight by Rita Berry, who's a little bit distant from me, but both in the same room as we are. And we're here to share a PowerPoint presentation with you now. And so I'm going to share my screen, and if you have any questions, we'll take some questions at the end. So the premise of this presentation today comes from in January, way back in January of this year. Mayor Ricky Waring and Rita Berry had a conversation about the possibility of a boutique hotel in downtown Somerville. Now, all of this was pre-COVID, but it's still relevant today. And so I want to present the findings of this. The discussion centered around the importance of the transparency and the value of community engagement within this process. Our Chamber Board of Directors agreed to host a series of public listening sessions and other avenues for input, as we feel that the Chamber is the voice of the businesses, and in this instance, our entire community. Our Chamber is committed to preserving small town charm while inspiring world-class business, and providing an opportunity for the community and business engagement was a perfect fit for the Chamber. As far as credentials go, we have done our research. We looked to key stakeholders in our community and took them along with us to various places throughout the Southeast. We went to 4 inner-city visits to neighboring Southeastern cities, including Greer, Greenville, South Carolina, Henderson and Asheville, North Carolina, Rock Hill and Fort Mill, South Carolina, and Lexington, Casey, and Columbia, South Carolina. These inner-city visits were imperative in figuring out what we needed to do now. These communities are all very similar to the Somerville-Charleston dynamic, but one theme was extremely consistent. The suburban municipalities we visited were leaps and bounds ahead of Somerville in economic development and revitalization. If we were to highlight the 3 main takeaways, it would be that each community had a unified vision, embraced their history, and were willing to take risks for the betterment of their community as a whole. Being that we're short on time, and I know you have a lot of business to take care of tonight, I won't go into detail on each of these places, but I really encourage you to research the revitalization of Greenville, Rock Hill, South Carolina, as well as Hendersonville, North Carolina, and you can see some of the strides that they've taken. In looking internally to our history, you may recall that Somerville is no stranger to hospitality. Our town prospered in the golden age of inns and served as a tourism hub for Charleston region due to the declaration of Charleston as one of the 2 healthiest places on earth. Visitors could visit Pinehurst Tea Plantation, they could go hunting, they could go to the racetrack, play golf, the location that's today Corey Woods. But many of these inns continued to operate into the mid-1900s, but following World War II, the convenience of motor traffic led to motels instead of hotels, and the elegant inns that were so prevalent in Somerville started to disappear. Fast forward to March, pre-COVID, when we held 2 public listening sessions at the Public Works Arts Center with the help of consultant David McNair. We had approximately 120 attendees at the in-person sessions and approximately 67 responses to our online survey, which was published on our website. The goal was to gain insight from our community on the potential of the boutique hotel located in the downtown area. There was no specific location, size, builder, etc. associated with the open-ended questions that we formed, but it was simply an opportunity for the community members to give feedback on a potential project. And following is a summary of the data that we collected at these listening sessions and through the website things. So it was an overwhelming 78% that attended the public listening sessions or completed the online survey were in favor of the boutique hotel in the historic area of the Somerville. So you might want to know, well, who came to this? Who weighed in on this? Most of the people you can see by these percentages live and work directly in the downtown area. So we really spoke to the stakeholders who are residents, business owners, residents and business owners, and lived and worked very close to the downtown area. So we feel we got a good representation of the people who were in the area. What pros did they see? They really liked the idea that there was going to be foot traffic in downtown Somerville, that tourism would be affected, that there would be a draw for community events. It would increase our economic development. There would be walkability to shops and dining and events, that there might be a bar associated with it, but really that there would be accommodations for family and friends to stay right downtown Somerville. That was a big benefit as well. And the tax revenue, that was a big thing that people were excited about. But it's not all pros. There were some concerns as well. The biggest concern, 46% of the participants were concerned about the design and architectural fit. Somerville is very important to our community, and we really want to make sure that the design and architectural fit stayed within the direction that Somerville wants to go. 28% were concerned about traffic congestion, and 26 were concerned about parking issues. So all of those would need to be put into consideration if this was to come to fruition. Other concerns included the public-private partnership and uncertainty of if and how the tax dollars would be spent. Some of the really interesting comments that were made were, I'm really excited about attracting tourists and businesses that can help boost the local economy. We need to keep tax dollars here in Somerville and Dorchester County. A lot has been done downtown, especially with the redevelopment of Hutchison Square, but now we need a final cohesive part to bring the people downtown walking about to boost mixed-use development. And a nice hotel with shops and restaurants would hopefully add vitality and interest to downtown Somerville. We are a law office, but think Somerville has too many lawyers, banks, and real estate offices occupying its downtown space in proportion to other outlets. After gathering all of this information and speaking with community members in person, on the phone, and via email, our Chamber Board of Directors officially voted on a position statement pertaining to the boutique hotel. So the board would like to present this statement as our position to you, the town of Somerville. The Greater Somerville Dorchester County Chamber Board of Directors fully supports the concept of a boutique hotel in downtown Somerville. After evaluating information obtained through listening sessions and community survey feedback, we feel a hotel would be a vital economic driver for our downtown businesses and will be supported by the citizens of our community. With the current economic and medical situation as it is, more than ever, our chamber is committed to our business community and keeping the channels of communication open and transparent as this project continues. A comprehensive report of all of these findings will be posted on the Chamber's website and at the site listed there, www.greatersomerville.org for public view. I thank you very much for your time, and I hope this gives you an idea of what we gained from the listening sessions. It was very informative for us and for our community members. And I know that we're in a different time right now than we were way back in March or in January when this discussion started, but I think it's vital to continue moving this conversation forward. So if you have any questions that you have for me, I would be happy to take them, or Rita can answer as well.
I would just like to say thank you for doing it. I think this was critical as we look forward to the future and have engaged the community in a far different way than has happened in the past. I think it gives us a clear path forward with a greater understanding of what people desire to have in town. And I think that's wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd like to say, I hope, you've did some historical thinking on this. We tried the boutique hotel before, it didn't work. And I hope you learned from the mistakes that was made then. I noticed you talked about transparency. That's very, very important. I think in the last go around, there was a lack of transparency. Also, the public-private partnership, I think, was a disaster. It's left a bad taste in some people's mouths too. So I know myself personally, I'm not eager about another private partnership with the town. So, but these are things you need to look at going forward. I do think we need a hotel downtown. I mean, I voted for it the first time around, even though it failed. But I think to complete the downtown area, you have to have some.
I think y'all have done a great job. I know we were involved in the talk with Rita, getting y'all involved in this project and really just taking the bull by the horn and putting it together. You did a great job. I thought you had real good response based on what Rita was telling me early on. A great crowd of local people that, by your numbers, you just showed us, were certainly in favor of it. So, you know, it's an unfortunate thing. We got this pandemic going on right now, but it's not going to last forever. Now, good Lord will make sure of that. And we'll all keep praying hard that we can get out of this thing and go back and make this hotel a reality, which I'm sure we can. But I just want y'all to know how much we appreciate the Chamber's hard work and dedication, and stepping in and doing this, because I don't think it was a role of the town. I think with the town's involvement in the other hotel, it kind of left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth for different reasons, and us stepping back and letting y'all step forward and handle this thing like you did was a great thing. And now we got something to go on when we get out of this pandemic situation. Rebecca has, and I hope she doesn't mind me telling this, but it's just early on, that she has been in contact with a hotel group that has talked to her as early as this week. So, you know, there are people out there that want to do stuff. You know, I mean, they know that these business people know that this pandemic's not going to last forever. So there's people still interested in Somerville. And that's a great thing. So, you know, what you've done has certainly not been in vain. And I'm sure that we will benefit by it. So we thank you so much. We applaud y'all for what you've done. And I know your work's not over, because we're going to be calling on you again. But thank you so much for what you've done, and thank you for your presentation, because it was great. We learned a lot from it. Thank you all very much.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you all. Okay, we'll move right along into public comments. So I guess I'll turn this over to Deb.
Yes, sir. We asked for public comments to either be emailed to publiccomments@somervillesc.gov before 4:30 p.m. today, or if they wanted to register to actually speak online, they would have to do that before 4:30 as well. I'm going to go ahead and read all the submissions that we received today before 4:30. Everybody ready?
Ready?
All right. Dear Mayor Waring and Town Council members, we, the residents of Del Webb Nexton, who have been following the proposed Sheep Island development, which will abut our community, are writing again to say that we remain dedicated to monitoring next council actions on this proposal. Our appreciation continues for the Hoyer team's willingness to weigh our residents' vested interests and well-being, and for the council's close consideration of development documents with the goal of accomplishing best outcomes for all of Somerville's stakeholders. The hundreds of property owners who make up Del Webb Nexton will rely upon a well-implemented build-out of the Whitfield property over the next decade as new development there advances toward our community's boundary. Thank you for taking every provision to ensure that such a large development at the edge of charming Somerville can only be an exemplary asset designed to preserve the town's identity as the heart of the Lowcountry. Sincerely, Del Webb residents, Joel Aronson, Tom Conry, Donna Dunavant, Earl Everts, Pat Heckard, and Gus Holliday. All right. Next is from Dr. Amanda McNabb of Charleston Health in Somerville. I have lived and worked in Somerville for the past 10 years. Like many of us in the healthcare fields, I have been following this health issue. I don't get my information from the news. I read the reports from government agencies along with the statements provided by various experts in their respective fields. Our office has been trained to test for COVID, and part of that training included an in-depth discussion of the virus. I understand that many of the general population are scared. I believe a lot of that fear stems from misinformation or a misunderstanding of what the information represents. I'm calling on you to educate yourself and be leaders in the community. I'm publicly asking you to end your mask policy. First, understand that a virus is a fragment of DNA and not stopped by the masks people are wearing. Second, understand that the virus is not any more dangerous than the many other pathogens we routinely come in contact with and don't test for. Third, the people who want to wear a mask are able to. Fourth, there are people who should not be wearing masks who wear one due to fear tactics and social pressures. Tensions are high at the moment. I had a patient reference Walter Scott today as a reason to avoid police at all costs. By making masks mandatory, you alienate and intimidate a larger part of the population than you know. Be a part of the solution, not another face of oppression. Our next is from Corinne Kane, business owner at 214 Azalea Square Boulevard. Good evening. I'm a business owner in District 2. Let me start by saying thank you for allowing public input to be considered. I left California 4 years ago because the elected officials there set policy and made life-altering decisions based on the fear-mongering from the MSM. This is the kind of politics I expect from liberal states that violate personal freedoms for their party's favor. I came to South Carolina because I believed that politics would be different here and the leaders valued the freedoms of their constituents. I have complied with the ordinance personally and have followed the rules of the ordinance in my business. I have fought very hard to weather the storm and did not lay off a single employee at any time since the onset of COVID. When looking at my sales this year compared to last year, I'm down 60% for March, 80% for April, 50% for May, and 20% for June. Since July 1st, when the mask ordinance was enacted, I am down over 40% during what is traditionally one of the busiest weekends. The week prior to July 1st was the first time that I had a day that was only 10% less than the comparable day from 2019. Now today, I'm starting the process of evaluating my options to close my store. I have 1.5 years left on my lease and will most likely have to declare bankruptcy, not because I have incurred debt, but because there is no way I can afford to pay over $100,000 that would be owed to finish out my lease. Furthermore, I have followed this disease closely. I researched the numbers and their sources. I also read journals and listen to discussions regarding COVID from doctors and scientists. Here's what I have learned. Reported cases are on the rise and testing is on the rise. Our death rate has been under 1% since June 1st. My husband is a doctor and follows the ever-evolving studies on testing, and there is no standard in testing that has been adopted. Doctors are discussing the accuracy of tests and the lack of discernment between acute viral cases, non-acute viral cases, the presence of antibodies, and the rate of false results. I'm happy to supply more information on testing if you would like. I also read reports from respected doctors questioning the health effects of wearing masks and the probability of asymptomatic carriers transmitting the disease. Finally, I'm a firm believer that in order to eradicate a virus, the healthy people in a population need to catch the virus so that it moves through its life cycle. By flattening the curve for too long, we are potentially allowing the virus to stay strong and possibly grow stronger while slowing the process of achieving herd immunity. I personally don't believe a less than 0.02 death rate that mostly consists of a vulnerable population is enough to exercise police powers and infringe on the rights of the general population, especially when there is no guarantee that it will change the course of the situation. Regardless, I have complied with the ordinance, I sheltered in place, and have practiced social distancing in public. I take the health of myself and my family very seriously. We rarely eat out, never eat fast food, and take great care to building up our immune systems. We are not asking people to stop smoking or eating processed food to decrease the death rate from heart disease, cancer, or any other health-related cause of death. We also don't ask people to stop driving because car accidents have a death rate of 0.06%. Why do we have to wear a mask and declare bankruptcy because 0.02% of the population does not have a strong enough immune system to survive a virus? Enacting ordinances based on fear being broadcast by the MSM, causing small business owners to go bankrupt and requiring everyone to wear masks because of a disease with a death rate of 0.02% is a gross overreach of government. If you decide to take personal liberties away, I strongly suggest that you be specific about what numbers justify your actions and that they be shared and your actions justifiable. Thank you for your time. Okay, great. The next comment is from David Powell. Yesterday evening, I went to Walmart to do some shopping. It was the first time I had actually left my house since Monday. I wore a mask as I entered Walmart. Did I like wearing a mask? No. Did I feel like I looked stupid wearing a mask? Yes. Was it uncomfortable wearing a mask? Yes. Did I remove it the minute I got back to my wife's car? Yes. So why did I wear it? I wore it for the elderly woman pushing her shopping cart alongside me in the same aisle. I wore it for the teenager in another aisle who had a mask on but may not wear one when going to the beach or hanging out with her friends. I wore one because my wife cares about my health and the health of others. I wore it because numerous doctors, nurses, and other healthcare professionals believe wearing a mask may help protect us. I realize that for every healthcare professional that says wearing a mask provides protection, there is a healthcare professional that says it doesn't help. And finally, I wore the mask because our town council has mandated that everyone wear a mask. You see, wearing a mask because it's mandated wasn't my first reason for doing so. In fact, it was my last reason for doing so. So why did I wear a mask? I wore it because I was thinking of others first. I was thinking of that elderly woman who is more susceptible to becoming infected and may be scared. The teenager whose demographic is seeing the highest increase in infection, my wife who loves and cares for me and is worried because I am past middle age and is concerned if I become infected, what the consequences might be. I wore it on the chance that those healthcare professionals that do believe it will help protect me and others are right. Finally, I wore it out of respect for town council and the decision they made, not as so many believe to control me or erode my civil rights, but because they are trying their absolute best to make the best decisions they can with the information they are given. You see, for me, it's about everyone else and not about me. That's why I wore a mask yesterday evening. Now, there will be many that see this post and say that wearing a mask is my prerogative and that they have a right to choose not to wear a mask. Some may respond defensively. Some may make ugly remarks. Some may even tell me to mind my own business or you do you and I'll do me. But I would simply ask, are you thinking of yourself or are you thinking of others first? The next email is from David Neal. The mayor and town council of the town of Somerville do not have the legal authority to mandate a face covering to be worn by citizens within the town limits. This is not a law and cannot be enforced. We have the right to choose to be free of oppressive overreach by an illegitimate order. As an American, I make my own lawful choices, not this council. I choose not to wear a mask, period. The next is from Maureen Caddy. Please vote yes to continue mandatory masks until the COVID numbers are substantially decreased. We are in a public health disaster and citizens can make a positive or negative difference based on wearing a mask in all public places. Thank you for your leadership during this unprecedented medical crisis. The next is from Beverly Stewart. I'm in full agreement with extending the current mask ordinance. I don't know if you have COVID-19 and you don't know if I have it, so everyone wearing masks provides some protection from each other. It's a small inconvenience that can have significant benefits. It is not a political issue, but a public health and safety measure. I would also like to see some enforcement of the ordinance because it's not worth much if people are allowed to violate it, as I have seen this past week. There are provisions for enforcement, but are they being carried out? Thank you. The next is from Leslie Cascalis. Masks are not effective from spreading COVID-19. The manufacturer's label on the box states this. There's also zero evidence that wearing cloth over your mouth stops it spreading as well. Although the testing has increased, so there are more positives, the CDC's own data shows severe cases and deaths have plummeted. Please do not enforce this mask policy that violates citizens' rights. If someone wants to wear one, that is their right. But for those of us that do not, it is unconstitutional to enforce that. It is not the government's job to protect my health. It's the government's job to protect my constitutional rights. These mandates are turning communities against each other and totally unnecessary. As a trauma survivor, having my mouth covered causes extreme anxiety and panic attacks, and I should not have to explain this to be able to provide groceries for my family. Thank you. The next is from David Weiss. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I would like to write to you today to express my support for removing the mask ordinance within town limits. Due to many reasons, including personal liberty, health reasons, breathing issues, and anxiety issues, the town instead should follow the example of other jurisdictions that have strongly encouraged the wearing of masks when you can't be socially distanced. Please consider this option in the opinion of the residents of the town. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to join the discussion. Next is from Kathy Dotson. Dear Town Council, I was at the meeting last Thursday when you chose to go against the wishes of most of the town and mandate wearing masks without allowing anyone to speak whether for or against. The dangers of wearing a mask for any extended amount of time are well documented. The dangers of a town council thinking they have the authority to take away the constitutional rights of private citizens as well as those of private businesses is akin to communism. Your decisions have already cost businesses revenue, some having to close their doors and ruin the ability of people to make a living and support their families. I don't need the government to decide what is good for me. I'm fully capable of that myself. If a business chooses to require a mask to enter their doors, that is their right. My right, as granted by the Constitution, we are constantly tearing apart, is to choose to patronize the business or go elsewhere. If the mask ordinance is extended, I will be in the group that gathers to protest, and I will also be in the group that chooses not to extend your time in office. Do not treat the citizens of Somerville to any more of this nonsense. If you wish to contact me, you may call the number below, and I will give you all that information. The next is from Kelly Johnson. Good evening and thank you in advance for your time. Although I believe the council's heart's likely in the right place when mandating masks, it was an enormous mistake that has had negative consequences for some of the most vulnerable in our community. Those who are unable to wear a mask have been harassed, demonized, and asked for papers to prove their private medical conditions. People have been threatened that police would be called on them and downright humiliated, all because they're simply trying to get food to nourish their families. The government has absolutely no business mandating what should be a personal medical decision. Statistically speaking, in our county, the rate of death from COVID-19 is 0.003%. We have lost more in our county from obesity-related issues. I believe it's unlikely that council will start mandating the foods we eat or amount of exercise one does. We can and should encourage healthy choices, but at the end of the day, it's about personal responsibility. I implore you all to please let common sense prevail and look at the actual rate of death in our county from COVID-19. Have faith in our citizens to make good choices, and please end this governmental overreach. The next is from Linda Scarborough, urging you to extend mask mandate until infection rate shows a significant decline. The next is from Christy J. Lynn. A mandatory face mask order is a radical infringement of the reasonable and legitimate expectation of privacy that most South Carolinians expect to have over their own bodily and facial autonomy. I am medically exempt from wearing a covering over my face. I am still continuously harassed in public to the point that I stay locked in my house. The division of mask versus non-mask has ignited bullying. Under the Americans with Disabilities Act and HIPAA, a patient is not required to disclose his or her medical condition. This does not stop stores and patrons from policing and bullying me while trying to get basic necessities. I no longer go shopping for any luxuries out of fear. I go to grocery stores outside of my town so that I'm not subjected to this unconstitutional policing of mask wearing. That means that I give all of my business to online or to other towns. I will continue to do this until this nonsense stops. Wearing a mask will pose a far greater health risk to Americans like myself, compromising my airway, increased risk of hypoxia, pseudohypoxia, hypercapnia, and significantly increase the risk for histotoxic hypoxic injury. In addition, the results of wearing a mask will increase the cortisol levels, inducing a sympathetomimetic drive, decreasing the lymphocyte subpopulation, increasing suppression of the immune system, resulting in physical and medical harm that could have been easily prevented. The New England Journal of Medicine states as follows: we know that wearing a mask outside healthcare facilities offers little, if any, protection from infection. Public health authorities define a significant exposure to COVID-19 as face-to-face contact within 6 feet within a patient that is symptomatic, that is sustained for at least a few minutes, and some say more than 10 minutes or even 30 minutes. The chance of catching COVID-19 from a passing interaction in a public space is therefore minimal. In many cases, the desire for widespread masking is a reflexive reaction to anxiety over the pandemic. The recovery rate for the majority of the population is in the high 90 percentile, mirroring influenza. You do not mask healthy people. You mask immunocompromised and symptomatic. Thank you for your time. The next is from Rachel Ferguson. I am writing this email because I am disheartened at Somerville's mask mandate. I'm a college graduate with degrees in political science, psychology, and sociology, and I've worked in the legal field for 20+ years. This mandate has many holes, fallacies, and gives medical and health mandates to the public. Government has now overstepped its boundaries. Not only is there no scientific evidence that masks are effective against viruses, but now huge economic and social problems are occurring. People are being bullied in stores by other customers. I am now praying incessantly before I even leave the house because I have already been subject to strangers correcting me in stores for not wearing a mask. People are policing each other and calling the police on each other, wasting officers' time. This foolishness needs to stop and is causing unnecessary unrest. Another issue that I'm seeing is if someone isn't wearing one, we do not know if they have a medical reason and they are getting bullied as well. We should be free to choose our own healthcare, not forced. People need to make their own medical decisions. Businesses are having to bear the brunt of policing what people wear, and our South Carolina economy is suffering because of it. If this mandate continues, schools are going to be in disarray as kids aren't going to wear these things or wear them correctly, and there will be many homeschooling. It is time for the Somerville government to be wise and be a model for other cities, as our cities and states are now being torn down due to this unnecessary constraint. Even the CDC does not insist we wear them. It is only recommended. If you look at their site, they tell you not to wear surgical masks. Surgical masks are mostly what I'm seeing and what businesses are handing out. I've never in my life thought I would see the day where the government believes it is okay to tell the general public to put a medical device on, or else they will be fined. If people are in fear or at risk, they need to stay home. Let the others live freely in the United States of America. We are not criminals. I do not have a record. I have never done anything illegal in my life. I refuse to wear a mask. If they worked, why is China regularly battling viruses and diseases, yet most of their culture have always worn masks? If masks worked, why are our COVID-19 numbers rising when most everyone was already wearing masks? Think for yourself. There are many more scientists confirming my stance, but please consider this scientific journal called the New England Journal of Medicine, dated April 1st, 2020. The next is from Donna Rome. Dear Council, I am asking you to please reconsider your decision on mandatory masks in retail stores and other places of business. I believe the social distancing, hand washing and hand sanitizer and disinfecting of all personal things should be sufficient in dealing with this virus. I have observed more people touching their face either to breathe, get the fog off their glasses, or readjust their masks. They are touching things in the stores and then going to do whatever they need to do with their masks. This is causing more health issues with constant touching of the face. I see this in everyone who speaks in public as well. I will be watching tonight to see how many of you touch your face mask during the meeting. Next is from Hope Costner. I just wanted to share with you the impact your face mask ordinance has had on my life personally. Last week, I was yelled at across a crowded restaurant that I was not allowed to enter because I was not wearing a mask. I am on disability for conditions that wearing a face covering would only worsen, and was totally humiliated by this scene. I was told by the owner to call from outside in the future. In other words, even though there are 30 people eating in here without a mask, I was not welcome because of my disability not coinciding with your mask mandates. I deliver for DoorDash, and the current mask mandate has restricted my means of income. I have worked and spent my money in your town for over a decade, but miss seeing the smiling faces on the street and in the shops that initially drew me to your town. I hope that the town council will make the decision the people want and remove this mandate immediately so that you may set the example for other towns to follow. Next is from Albert Charbonneau. Wearing a mask should not be mandated, but is a matter of choice. There is a zero argument for personal responsibility. I do what I have to do to protect myself. It is not up to me to protect the people who don't want to be personally responsible themselves. The best advice was given at the beginning of this pandemic. Wash your hands, don't touch your face, and shelter in place. Not many people followed the simplest steps and instead went out to protest and congregate at Walmart, thus spreading the virus. Masks do protect you, but only about 3% effective. For those who feel the need to protect others, remember that there are way more people who don't want your protection and won't be doing anything for you either. If you want to stand up for something, it would be far better to promote personal responsibility. Everyone take care of yourself, and instead of being a mask bully, be a personal responsibility advocate. Wash your hands, don't touch your face, shelter in place as often as possible. If you have to go out, practice social distancing. If these things are not practiced, they will never be a habit, and no matter what you wear on your face will make a difference. People have been wearing masks for months now, and the case numbers are going through the roof, so it's obvious that this isn't the right approach. The only mandate that works is shelter in place. Unfortunately, we are all going to have to realize that we as humans can only take so much of that before we fight against it. This isn't going away, so either we learn how to be personally responsible for ourselves as a whole, or accept the fact that people are going to die. Mandating will only lead to more division within a free society. Just look at us now. Next is from Donna Clem. As a tax-paying citizen of Dorchester County, I am totally against this mandatory mask ruling. It should be our choice, and I believe the good people of Dorchester County will use common sense when it is necessary to wear a mask. For me, it causes great anxiety being assaulted at the young age of 14. The criminal had put their hand over my mouth, and that is exactly how I feel when required to wear a mask. I can't breathe. As a healthy adult, I know enough to maintain my distance from others, wash my hands, and don't touch my face. Next is from Catherine Berry. As a mother of a child in a car seat, canceling car seat classes is a huge disservice to the children and parents in our community. Accidents are the #1 cause of death in children in the United States. Children are more likely to be in a car accident on the way to their car seat class than to contract COVID at the said class. I am the lead coordinator of the Mothers of Preschoolers group in Moncks Corner. There are several MOPS groups in the area who can back me up when I say moms need car seat installation classes for the safety of their children. Our group has had several discussions on car seat safety, and we even pass out lists with professional car seat check locations, which include the Somerville Fire Station location. Cancel culture should not interfere with the health, safety, and well-being of our children in this life and death decision to cancel car seat classes. Thank you. The next is from Amanda Powell. I am against mandates. They are against the Constitution. Even though I wear a mask in crowded places right now, I can't wear one for more than 30 minutes at one time without chest pain. I remove the mask when looking at stuff on shelves in the grocery store as long as no one is close to me. I will wear it walking around. My daughter can't wear them at all due to asthma, and she can't breathe with it. We live in Goose Creek, so I will not be coming to Somerville to spend money anytime in the near future if you do this mandate. I am aware of the mask mandate in Goose Creek as well, and I'm fighting it here. The bottom line is that if you want to wear a mask, then do it. If your mask works, no one else needs to wear one. The government or city isn't responsible for my family's health. That's why we are taking extreme precautions and quarantining most of the time. It is unconstitutional to force anyone to do any healthcare, including wearing masks. Please consider not making mask mandates. Once freedom is gone, it's gone forever. Plus, the virus is so small in particle size that masks don't help much. The next is from Micheline Hill. If it's my right to choose whether or not to kill an innocent unborn baby and accept vaccines, then surely it is my right to choose whether or not to put on a mask on my face. My body, my choice. The next is from Kimberly Hewitt. I would like to thank the town of Somerville for enacting the mask ordinance. There is good science behind masking and reducing the spread of COVID-19. I would encourage the council to extend the ordinance beyond today's date for another 30 days at least. It is imperative to continue implementing such measures to reduce the spread of COVID so that our local businesses have the best chance at staying open and to help keep our essential workers as safe as possible given the circumstances. For those worried about the impact on personal freedoms, please be reminded that the Supreme Court has ruled repeatedly that such powers are given to local governments to enact such ordinances when it comes to public health, particularly during a pandemic. A mask ordinance extension is one of the most effective ways for Somerville to be a part of the solution and not contribute further to the problem of COVID-19. Thank you for your time. The next is from Kelly Huber. I'm a college graduate and an employee of one of the largest employers in the Tri-County area. My husband and I also own multiple businesses in Somerville. We also just happen to have 3 children with a rare disease that falls under the American with Disabilities Act. We were listed as high risks according to what the CDC initially put out. I have been watching and doing my own research very closely. I also view situations as either solving the problem or creating more problems. The mask mandates are in fact creating more problems than serving as a good standard for our citizens. I also served on a 2013 Consumer Task Force for the Secretary's Advisory Committee on Heritable Diseases in Newborns and Children. The group was created to advise the Secretary of Department of Health and Human Services regarding the most appropriate application of universal newborn screening tests, technologies, policies, guidelines, and standards for effectively reducing morbidity and mortality in newborns and children having or at risk for inheritable diseases. This testing is for early intervention and was proven to bring quality of life with less chance for physical or mental long-term health impacts of the citizens. In my opinion, it is highly risky for a town council to even advise on health recommendations when there is no knowledge of the physical or mental long-term complications to their constituents. When the death rate of this virus is less than 0.02% and the testing is not even accurate, there seems to be no justification for mandates of masks. I must ask you today, when masks impact negatively the health of our healthy citizens, will you be willing to stand up and acknowledge your mandates for masks may have had a hand in such harm of the citizens? There are 6 U.S. doctors that have been working on the front lines that have cured thousands of patients from COVID. More and more doctors are coming forward daily. Of these thousands of COVID patients they have cured, there has been 0 ventilators used, 0 hospitalizations, and 0 deaths. There are medications to cure this virus. These doctors are the real heroes in all of this. They put their livelihoods on the line to do what they went to medical school for, and that was to cure patients of ailments despite what any political leader might say. To seek the truth and make recommendations based on facts, knowledge, and through their experiences. I am coming before you to ask that you make recommendations of masks used only based on facts and not on what you might feel is right. Our most vulnerable citizens are being attacked right now. 1 in 10 Americans have one of the over 7,000 rare diseases. Half of them are children, meaning 1 in 5 children would fall under the Americans with Disability Act. These citizens cannot wear a mask due to their health, and yet we continue to ask them to do so. Most citizens with health impacts you would not see as their diseases are invisible, but with the masks mandates, you see them. Our most vulnerable are being asked to not only feel different, but now to look different too. My own son was refused service at a Somerville chain restaurant, the only restaurant he can eat at in Somerville due to his health, for not wearing a mask. He asked to speak to the manager, and she said she did not know that there was regulations for those that could not wear a mask. Due to my kids' rare metabolic disease, they cannot go without food or drinks for more than 2 hours, and they cannot eat foods that are not organic. So we have to bring our own food everywhere we go. We have to explain this to the airports when we get on a plane, and we have to explain this to every. Now you want us to explain why we are not wearing a mask to every business owner, restaurant, retail establishment, clothing store, grocery store, gas station, library, school, church, every building, every doctor's office, to the police that we cannot wear a mask. The Americans with Disabilities Act was put into place so we can be inclusive of those with disabilities, not to put more restrictions on them. How does the town of Somerville plan to not falsely accuse 1 in 5 walking among us that their non-mask wearing is for the better of everyone's health? Again, when masks impact both physically and mentally our citizens, both rare disease or not, would you be willing to stand up and acknowledge your mandates for masks may have had a hand in the harm of such a citizen? Business owners, including our own, are seeing their livelihoods ruined over a piece of cloth that has 0 scientific backing that they actually worked in protecting our citizens from this virus. I have a high regard for healthcare workers and keeping our citizens safe. I would be the first person to shut down if I felt that I was impacting someone else's health with or without a virus. I would be the first person to shut down if I was sick or if said person in my establishment was sick. These mandates are hurting the businesses. We need to give back the freedom to our business owners to not be harassed or shamed into mandates set forth by a panel of people with no scientific background and no numbers to accurately justify such harsh restrictions. I have worked with all kinds of specialists in Charleston and at Johns Hopkins. There are brilliant doctors out there, but not every doctor knows everything about every disease. When you are brought to your knees, you start to learn that research, facts, decisions based on experiences are what will heal your family and community. Even our president, Mr. Donald Trump, today acknowledged that Dr. Fauci was going back on his words. Not that long ago, he stated that masks were not needed, and now he changed his recommendations to needed. I have no doubt our country will heal from this virus. I have no doubt that doctors have already done so. I have no doubt that mask mandates will in fact hurt the health of our citizens. I have no doubt that Somerville Town Council is up for the challenge of lifting these mandates for the better of our community's health and livelihood. The next is from Jennifer Ibrecki. I cannot be at the meeting today, but I'd like to add my comments. As a small business owner in Charleston, I now have to force my customers and staff to wear masks for the entire time they are at work. One of my employees has severe asthma. She wrote to her doctor to see if he'd write her a note. He responded that while he agrees the masks are not good for a person's health, in this political environment, he is not willing to sign his name saying that. The science isn't clear and there are always exceptions, but this doctor is right. In this environment, they are not able to do their job for fear of backlash and ruining their reputation, simply for disagreeing with the agenda. Please lift this mandate and let the people have the choice to decide if they can, should, or will wear a mask. Please keep this choice available. Thank you. The next is from Christy Sussman. Dear Council, I am writing to ask you to reconsider your decision for mask mandate. We all understand that there are grave concerns concerning COVID-19. We all understand practical cautions must be taken, especially for those at risk. There is no conclusive evidence to indicate mandating the use of masks will prevent the spread of the virus. Case studies for the similar influenza virus have all been inconclusive. In fact, the use and reuse of masks in public are likely to spread and germinate various other diseases and illness. If you intend to force healthy people to wear masks in public, it is your responsibility to prove that this is absolutely necessary and helpful. The most recent research indicates the average mask is very unlikely to prevent the smaller virus molecules from getting through, and yet we will continue to breathe moist, warm air on all the virus and bacteria we inadvertently transfer to our masks while taking them on and off and adjusting them. Please do not allow cultural fears or pressures to affect your decisions, but logic, fact-based evidence, and sound reasoning. Masks should be a recommendation, an individual decision, not something you force on people. Thank you for your time and efforts to work toward the best interest of our community. The next is from Misty Jones. If my body, my choice is your anti-mask argument, then you are pro-choice 100%. The next is from Melanie Brown. I oppose the mandatory mask mandate. Masks should not be mandatory, it should be voluntary. They haven't been proven by science to be effective. They cause more harm to the wearer than good. Please reconsider the mandatory mask mandate. The United States is based on personal choice and freedom. This is not a freedom. The next is from Erica Malakowski. My name is Erica Malakowski, and my husband and I have lived in Somerville since 2009. We operate and own a successful business in this beautiful town. As is written, I believe this ordinance was rushed, is barely enforceable, is inconsistent, and very confusing to the general public and business owners. Furthermore, there is limited evidence that suggests the efficacy of surgical and fabric masks in the prevention of coronavirus. In addition to this, it's borderline unethical to expect someone with a medical condition to have to continually repeat they have a medical condition that prevents them from wearing a mask. Some medical conditions are extremely personal. Panic attacks and past experiences of sexual trauma are two examples why someone cannot comply with wearing a mask. Someone struggling in this area relives a great amount of stress having to justify to every store owner why they cannot wear a mask, even if they simply say, I cannot wear a mask for medical reasons. Admittedly, I do not know the answer to this complex problem, but enforcing masks I do not think is a step in the right direction. The next is from Christine Rice. Please do not discontinue the mask ordinance here in Somerville. Our numbers are going up at an alarming rate, and doing this would be deadly to all the residents here. Offices and businesses will close, and our economy will spiral down. Vote to keep this in place. Our lives are in your hands. The next is from Michelle Capps. My name is Michelle Capps. I'm a local business owner to the area. I do not agree or support a face mask mandate due solely to the fact that it is dangerous to our health. Masks do not have enough proven evidence that it prevents the spread of the virus. It does, however, have a lot of evidence proving that it reduces oxygen intake, increases toxin inhalation. It also prevents us from coming into contact with naturally occurring elements, particles, debris, germs, bacteria, viruses, etc., which it does not support a healthy immune system. I believe the best way we can beat this is by strengthening our immune systems, not weakening them. Foster. Please let families make their own decisions. You don't love our families more than we do. Please let us decide. Thank you for listening, praying for wise decisions. The next is from Elizabeth Terry. Please allow families to decide if they want to wear masks. It should not be mandated. And the last is from Amy McLennan that says students should not be required to wear masks. And that is all the emailed public comments that we had. People were also allowed to call in their public comments. We had 3. Is Ashley Chiampi on the line?
No,
Nope. CJ Westfall
no,
and Justin Robertson.
no.
Okay. All right, that is it for public comment for agenda items.
Okay, Beth, thank you very much. That was a lot of reading you did there. Appreciate that very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, petitions, none, pending bills and resolutions.
Second and final reading of general bond ordinance to allow the Somerville Commissioners of Public Works to issue water and sewer bonds to fund various projects.
I have a motion on this.
Second, final reading.
Wait, lots of y'all are still muted right now. I can't
Carrie,
hear.
said we approve it.
Motion made and approved. Is that what I hear?
Yes.
Is that a
Carrie.
second?
I have second and final reading.
Okay, so we got a first and a second.
Okay,
Any discussion? All in favor signify by raising the right hand. Any opposed likewise, ayes carry.
all right. Second and final reading of an ordinance to rezone TMS numbers 154000073 Miles Jamison Road and 15406150006 310 Beverly Drive, approximately 306.809 acres and owned by Dorchester County from PUD Planned Development District to PL Public Lands, this would be in Council District 6.
Mr. Mayor, I would move second and final reading of the ordinance.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded on this on the Miles Road project. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by raising your right hand. Okay, ayes carry.
Second and final reading of an ordinance to annex Dorchester County TMS number 14401000005, approximately 1 acre, located at 795 Orangeburg Road, currently zoned R4 multifamily residential in Dorchester County, and will be zoned PUD Planned Development District upon annexation into the town of Somerville's municipal limits, and the existing PUD for the Knightsville tract shall be amended to include this parcel for open space and commercial uses.
There a motion
Mr.
on
Mayor,
that?
Mr. Mayor, I'd move second and final reading of the ordinance.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made and seconded on the Knightsville tract. Any discussion? Not all in favor signify by raising the right hand. Those likewise, ayes carry.
Second and final reading of an ordinance to amend the Somerville Comprehensive Plan, Section 1 and Town of Somerville Future Land Use Map Number 2, currently designated as Employment Growth District to Neighborhood Mixed Use with a Commercial Activity Center focal point at the area closest to Interstate 26.
Got a motion on this?
I'll make a motion that we approve it.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made and second. Any discussion? All in favor of this signify by raising your right hand. Opposed likewise, ayes carry. Okay, Beth.
Second and final reading of an ordinance to amend the Somerville Unified Development Ordinance, Title 8, Tree Protection, Landscaping and Screening, Chapter 3, Tree Protection, Subsection 3.B.3, Preservation during Construction.
I have a motion on this.
I'll move we give second final reading.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Opposed likewise. Ayes carried.
Second and final reading of an ordinance to annex Berkeley County TMS number 208-00-02013, approximately 973 acres, located off of the Nexton Parkway Interchange and Linda Way, currently zoned HI Heavy Industrial and Flex 1 Agricultural in Berkeley County, and will be zoned PUD Planned Development District upon annexation into the town of Somerville's municipal limits.
I'll make a motion. We approve second final reading.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, is it my understanding that this is supposed to be on the agenda tonight?
Yes, yes, sir. It was put on the agenda when it got sent out, but we received an email today from the representatives from the Hoyer property owners and the property owners, and they wish to postpone this, and so F and G, they wish to postpone it.
I'll remove my,
Okay, Bobby, withdraw your motion. Okay, that will
Yes.
come off the agenda then. That's F. So we move on to G, right? Well, do we even go to G?
Because it was on the agenda, you guys will have to move to postpone it.
I move to postpone F and G. I'll second.
Okay. Motion made and seconded that we postpone F and G on the Hoyer track. Any discussion? Not all in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Opposed likewise, the ayes carry. Okay, introduction of bills and resolutions.
First reading of an ordinance to amend the Somerville Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 5, Section 5.6.9, alley, Chapter 10, Section 10.2.1.a, applicability, Section 10.4.2a, monument signs, Section 10.7.2c, temporary banners, maximum area, and Section 10.8, signs that do not require a permit.
Okay, I hear a motion on this.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that we give first reading to the ordinance.
And I'll second.
Okay, motion made that we give first reading on this ordinance. Any discuss, second? We got a motion made and second. Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by raising your right hand. Opposed likewise, ayes carry.
Mr. Mayor, if
Yes,
I
sir.
could, I wanted to check with Beth to make sure that when we sent out the notification for public comments,
Mhm.
that there was a number given for people to call in. I've gotten 2 messages that said they didn't get a number to call in on.
Yes, sir. As soon as they emailed me, I emailed back the instructions to join the Zoom meeting and call in. There was an online option and as well as a phone call that you could make.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Beth, if you like, I can email them real quick if you really want to give them the opportunity. I got that message too, that someone did not say I guess they didn't get the invitation. I can forward it to them really quick and see if we can get them. Y'all, like, I don't know if that's the proper etiquette at this point, but
I think we should.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I think that'd be the right thing to do. If they didn't get it, we ought to give them the opportunity.
Okay.
It's just a couple of them.
All right.
If Lenny can do that for us.
Do you want to do that at the next public comment section after we go through the miscellaneous items?
Yeah, let's do that at the open public comments.
To
The
give
only,
them-
the only thing about that is won't we already have voted?
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, that's true. Good thinking, Bill. Good thinking.
While you're here.
I wondered why.
Can't Lenny do that for you, Beth? Can't Lenny go ahead and
Yes, he
send it
is.
to him?
yeah, I could do that. Give me just a second.
Okay.
if you guys would like, you could
Move on
Move.
down.
move A to the bottom and then go ahead and talk about some of the other issues while you're waiting on them, because it may take them a second if they've
Okay.
got to get on a Zoom meeting.
Okay.
All right, let's do that. Let's go on to B, Beth.
Okay, that is consideration of recommendations from the State Accommodations Tax Advisory Committee on funding for 2020.
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a recommendation that we approve the funding that the committee has recommended, but we withhold the funding for the museum because it is my understanding that we have not been able to make contact with them or understand what their plans are. I'm not suggesting that they do not receive it. I'm saying we should hold it until we understand exactly what is going on over there.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Just, Mr. Mayor, just so I understand the motion in a second, is your motion, Mr. Jenkins, to vote on everything except the museum and vote on the museum at a later date?
I believe that's a better way to state the motion, Mr. McIntosh.
All right, just wanted that clarification.
Okay, so, give me that
Mr.
motion
Mayor,
again,
Mr. Mayor.
Terry. Give me that motion.
Approve all of the recommendations with the exception of the museum, and we vote on that at a later date.
Okay. Walter,
Okay.
Walter, you second that, Walter?
Yeah, I second that.
Okay. All right, any discussion?
Just one little tidbit. I guess we will, someone from the administration will contact them and tell them they need to give us some clarification, right?
We've been,
Yeah,
I think
we have been.
Yes, staff, even different staff members, including Rich, have actually tried to contact them. We've even tried to catch someone over there and haven't been able to do that yet. So we'll keep trying.
Okay, all in favor of this, signify by raising your right hand. Opposed likewise, ayes carried.
All right. Next is consideration of the request from the Dorchester Free School Board.
if I could, let me explain what that is. And Walt, I'm not sure whether, Walt and I own the Free School Board, so I don't know whether or not we need to recuse ourselves on this. All they're asking for is there are a number, I think it's 11 to 15 pictures or pieces of information in our sesquicentennial book that they would like to utilize in a book that the Dorchester Free School Board is writing. And since we have a copyright on that book, we have to approve their use of those pictures and information. I see nothing inherently wrong in any way of allowing this to happen.
Let me just,
I'll recuse myself from voting.
I don't think unless there's a financial involvement, you need to recuse yourself.
Okay.
I'm in the same boat you're in, and I don't think that's required. I would point out that it's a nonprofit effort. Nobody's making any money out of this. It's totally nonprofit. So.
Well, Mr. Mayor, since I'm not on the Dorchester Free Board, I'll make a motion that we approve this request, essentially to lend our copyright on these photographs to the Dorchester Free School Board.
And I'll second.
Okay, motion made and seconded.
And
Any
Mr.
discussion?
Mayor, I would just point out that the museum, I don't know what's come of it, but I would just point out that several volunteers with the museum came to us 2 or 3 years ago about updating this book. And they had the same request. They needed our permission to proceed an update of this very book because we have the copyright on it. Of course, because the museum was a nonprofit, we granted that request. I just don't think we've ever heard back from them again, but that's another issue.
Okay, any more discussion? If not, all in favor signify by raising your right hand. Opposed likewise? Ayes carried.
Mayor, we do have Ashley on the line now that would like to do a public comment. I don't know if it's the right time for her, but she is on the meeting with us.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Can you guys
Okay.
hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you guys for correcting that. I appreciate it. So I will keep this short. Benjamin Franklin said that any society that will give up a little liberty to gain a little security will deserve neither and lose both. Council members, you have a unique opportunity right now before you to keep our liberties and freedom at a local level honored and show leadership to our state and federal levels of government. This is not to confuse continuing to recommend, not mandate, that the public follow our current health guidelines, but using authority from a threat of force or a mandate and not by the consent of the governed is the weakest level of leadership. I know for a fact that each of you have strong leadership skills, and I hope that this shows in your vote today on what feels right to you, which should be to answer the question, does our local government have the right to tell us what we can and cannot wear? And not to confuse it with should we. What we should do is a morality issue we need to handle at a personal and individual level. I trust that you all will vote to uphold our city's conservative view on limiting our government power and vote no on the mask mandate extension while continuing to keep us up to date with current health recommendations, but to keep our freedom to choose as your first priority. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is that the only call you got, Lenny?
Yes, Mayor. The other two, I did confirm the other two were emailed that requested. They did get the email, so, or that has been sent. So that's the only one.
Okay. If you get another one, let us know.
All right. Continuing in the miscellaneous, consideration of town implementing eminent domain for road right-of-way acquisition if necessary for the intersection improvements for US 17A and Tupperway Drive for the 6 Oaks PUD.
I hear a motion on that.
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion that the town utilize eminent domain for this project if it is in fact needed.
I'll second that, but I've got a question. Is Russ still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about how much property is being taken and that sort of thing?
Yes, sir, Mr. Brown. We don't know yet how much property. They have to go through the design process and submit to DOT. We're hoping none will be necessary, but we don't know what DOT's response will be and what they're going to require the intersection to look like. So we think there's a good chance there may be property needed, and the developers are private entities and cannot implement eminent domain. So the intersection is be a benefit for the public. So that's where we would come in and help that if needed.
That's up there near some of the high school where the Tupper's old milk store was.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
Yeah.
Was
There's
an
a-
attempt made to purchase the property from the owner first?
That is what is
They will
taking.
attempt to purchase the property first. They will attempt that before they come to us and ask for eminent domain. We've asked them to exhaust all their options before they approach us for eminent domain.
Yeah, I just make that point because usually eminent domain is the last resort. Yeah.
Right.
Require the benefit of a larger group. Okay, that's good.
There is a drawing in your packets if you guys want to look at that and kind of see how we're hoping the intersection will be realigned. And I think
I was
that
too busy reading the debates pro and con against masks.
I understand.
Mayor, we do have another person that was contacted that did register that's on the line. So just letting you know.
Okay, you go ahead. Hello?
Yeah, we can't understand you. Is there a better place to have a better signal real fast, or
Or Colin?
you're kind of breaking up? Hey,
Lenny,
what we'll do is we're gonna mute Mr. Westfall. There's another person also that wanted on, Mr. Justin. So I'm gonna allow Justin to talk, and that's the last one. Justin, are you available? Justin? No?
He might be joining.
You able to hear us, folks? Able to hear me?
Yes. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Is it coming in and out? Is it coming in and out? Are you able to hear
It's going in and out. Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna
Okay.
mute you. Is there a Justin available? Is Justin online?
Lenny, would it be easier for them to call in using the phone number?
They could do that too. There's a phone number on the invitation. Is Justin available right now? No. Okay. Yeah, there's a phone number on that email that y'all could call as well. That would be a clearer signal if you just use your cell phone.
Yeah.
Was it sent earlier and was it sent just now?
Yeah, I thought July 9th was your birthday. All right, thank you.
Hang on, Justin is getting on the line right now, it looks like. All right, Justin, are you with us? You're muted right now, Justin.
That's the biggest controversy. We still, I'm on the meeting right now.
What did he say?
I'll probably give you a call in a couple of days.
Justin, you're still muted. I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Yeah, I can hear you guys there.
Okay, there you go. Now you go. All right, we have Justin's going to do his public comment. Go ahead, Justin.
All right, real quick. Thank you guys for allowing us to speak tonight. I'm going to be real brief. My question, can you guys hear me well?
I texted
Yes.
him. No, we're good. We're good.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Why all of a sudden does council mandate an ordinance to strip our civil liberties because of fear? We are still to this day unsure how the disease is even transmitted. Why couldn't the six of you think of a more comprehensive solution first? For example, form a transient health committee to fetch groceries for the elderly, pick up prescriptions for the sick and vulnerable instead of inconveniently mandating 65,000 residents to wear masks, stoking more fear and pandemonium amongst our children and citizens. Why didn't you just at least put a system in place to help the folks with various vulnerabilities to this illness rather than cripple the bottom lines of small business owners, propelling more anxiety onto the working class and their families? We all have been through enough. Our children have been through enough. I know there are intelligent minds on council. I believe that. I believe that near and dear to my heart. But without suggestion, we immediately turn to unconstitutional restrictions that perpetuates fear and destroys credibility of every member who reacted without thought. You have got to find a better way of working with the community. We are better. That's all.
Thank you.
Unless CJ wants to try again, I think that's it.
Yeah, there's CJ.
CJ, would
Hey
you
guys,
like?
can you hear me okay?
Go ahead.
Awesome. Okay. Great. Okay, I just wanted to say to you and personalize this directly to Mayor Waring. Mr. Mayor, I have a great deal of respect for you. You have more than one choice. The choice isn't between mandating masks and not mandating masks. You can do what Monk's Corner or Hanahan did, and they encouraged masks. It was a voluntary thing, and it didn't have any of the backlash. I feel that this is not wanted by the people, it's unconstitutional, and it's unnecessary. There are two different polls, one done in positively Somerville, 2-1, people didn't want it. 3-1 in a group called Berkeley County Growth and Development with 14,000 people. 3-1, they didn't want it. 640 votes to 240 votes. It's unnecessary because the Center for Disease Control announced last Friday that the percentage of deaths in the United States has dipped low enough so that the nation is actually at the epidemic threshold right now. This means that if the percentage drops any lower, which it's been trending down, the CDC will no longer call the coronavirus an epidemic. And then lastly, this violates the privacy clause of the South Carolina state constitution for folks to be able to be secure in their persons and against any unreasonable invasions of privacy. I encourage you guys to do all the right things. We might not have the best history, but do the right thing that you know in your gut here. Vote this down. We appreciate the opportunity, and thank you for allowing us to speak.
Thank you.
Do we get a vote on the eminent domain item? I have a motion and a second.
Okay, let me get back to where it was. Yeah. All right, yeah, did we get all our questions answered on the eminent domain? Any more discussion on that? Okay, all in favor signify by raising your right hand. Opposed likewise. Ayes carried.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so now we can go back to 9A, the consideration of emergency ordinance requiring individuals to wear face coverings in retail and food service establishments and matters related thereto.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I would ask that we dispense from the reading the recitals, that is all of the whereases based on an increase in over 22,000 cases statewide since June the 30th and 214 more deaths. And that the coronavirus is a deadly disease. And I would encourage all those that are listening to this meeting to please pay attention to what the exemptions are.
Okay. All right. Be it ordained by the Town Council of the Town of Somerville, South Carolina as follows. Section 1, definitions. As used herein, the terms below shall have the following meanings. Number 1, establishment means, but not limited to, food service establishments, retail establishments, professional offices, or any other establishment, office, or business where face-to-face interaction occurs between those gathered therein. 2, face covering means a uniform piece of cloth, fabric, or other material that securely covers a person's nose and mouth and remains affixed in place without the use of one's hands. Face coverings include, but are not limited to, bandanas, medical masks, cloth masks, scarves, and gaiters, provided that they are worn such that they securely cover the person's nose and mouth. 3, food service establishment means any establishment within the town that sells prepared food on a delivery or carry-out basis. Responsible person with respect to an establishment means any individual associated with the establishment who has the authority and ability to enforce the requirements of the ordinance within the establishment, such as an owner, manager, or supervisor. Responsible person may also include an employee or other designee that is present at the establishment but does not have the title of manager or supervisor, but who has the temporary or designated authority and ability to ensure that the requirements of this ordinance are met while the establishment is open to the public, with or without limitation. Number 5, retail establishment means, but is not limited to, any retail business, organization, establishment, or facility open to the public with or without invitations within the town, including but not limited to, A, grocery stores, convenience stores, and any other establishment engaged in the retail sale of non-prepared food. B, commercial stores engaged in the retail sale of goods or services to the public, including without limitation, sporting goods stores, furniture and home furnishing stores, clothing, shoe and clothing accessory stores, banks, jewelry, luggage and leather goods stores, department stores, hardware and home improvement stores, book, craft and music stores, florist and flower stores, salons, barbershops, professional offices, and all other business concerns which rely on face-to-face contact between staff or between staff and patrons. C, pharmacies and other stores that sell medications or medical supplies. D, alcoholic beverage stores, and E, laundromats. F, hotels, motels, event centers. Number 6, dining means the actual transfer of food or beverages to the mouth. Number 7, gathering means a group of people gathered together under a permit issued by the town or allowable under town ordinances, or gathered together without a permit. Gathering does not include churches or church functions. Section 2, use of face coverings, effective as of 12 a.m. on the 10th day of July 2020. The use of a face mask covering or mask is required by 1, all customers are required to wear face coverings while inside the enclosed area of all establishments set forth in Section 1 definitions, subsections 1, 3, and 5A through F. Number 2, all persons entering any building open to the public in the town must wear a face covering while inside the building. Number 3, all establishments including but not limited to those set forth in Section 1 definitions, subsections 1, 3, and 5A through F, must require their employees to wear a face covering at all times while having face-to-face interaction with the public, and employers shall be responsible and require staff to wear, and those staff shall wear, face coverings while working in areas open to the general public and areas in which interactions with other staff are likely, in which social distancing of at least 6 feet cannot be observed. Number 4, all persons when walking in public or maintaining a distance of 6 feet between other members of the public at all times is not possible. Number 5, while providing or utilizing public transportation, including but not limited to taxis, Uber, or Lyft. Number 6, when participating in a gathering, when, however, the gathering is outside and social distancing of 6 feet is observed, masks are not required. Number 7, while interacting with people in outdoor spaces, including but not limited to curbside pickup, delivery, and service calls. Section 3, exemptions. Face covering shall not be required. Number 1, in outdoor or unenclosed areas pertinent to retail establishments or food service establishments in which social distancing of at least 6 feet is possible and observed. Number 2, for those who cannot wear a face covering due to a medical or behavioral condition. Number 3, for children under 12 years old, provided that adults accompanying children ages 2 through 12 are strongly encouraged to use reasonable efforts to cause those children to wear face coverings while inside the enclosed area of any retail establishment or food service establishment. Number 4, for patrons of food service establishments while they are dining, seated, or socially distanced, consuming food and/or beverages. Number 5, in private individual offices and for employees where they are separated from customers by a plexiglass or glass shield, or from other employees where social distancing of at least 6 feet may be observed. Number 6, when complying with directions of law enforcement officers. Number 7, in settings where it is not practical or feasible to wear a face covering, including when obtaining or rendering goods or services such as the receipt of dental services or while swimming. Number 8, while exclusively with members of a family or the same household and no person other than such family or household is within the same enclosed area. Number 9, police officers, firefighters, EMS, or other first responders when it is not practical while engaged in a public safety matter of an emergency nature. Number 10, persons attending church or church functions. Section 4, individual violations, civil infraction. Any person violating the provisions of this ordinance by failing to wear a face covering when required shall be guilty of a civil infraction punishable by a penalty of not less than $25, not to exceed $100. Each day of a continuing violation of this ordinance shall be considered a separate and distinct offense. Section 5, responsible person violations, civil infraction. Any responsible person violating the provisions of this ordinance by failing to require employees of the establishment to wear a face covering when required shall be guilty of a civil infraction punishable by a penalty of not less than $100, not to exceed $500. Each day of a continuing violation of this ordinance shall be considered a separate and distinct offense. Section 6, responsible person violations, revocation of permits and licenses. In addition to the penalties established by Section 5 hereof, repeated violations of this ordinance by a responsible person by failing to require employees of the establishment to wear a face covering may, subject to all procedural protections set forth in the town code, result in the suspension or revocation of any occupancy permit or business license issued to the business where the repeated violations occurred. Section 7, responsible person violations, public nuisance. In addition to the penalties established by Section 5 hereof, repeated violations of this ordinance by a responsible person by failing to require employees of the establishment to wear a face covering are additionally hereby declared to be a public nuisance, which may be abated by the town by restraining order, preliminary and permanent injunction, or other means provided for by the laws of the state. The foregoing notwithstanding, every effort shall be made to bring establishments into voluntary compliance with the terms of this ordinance prior to the commencement of any enforcement actions. Section 8, duties of establishments and responsible persons. Establishments and responsible persons shall have a duty to enforce the provisions of this ordinance only against employees of the establishment. Without limiting the generality of the foregoing, no establishment or responsible person shall have any duty to require that customers, visitors, or other members of the general public wear face coverings. Section 9, enforcement. Somerville Code enforcement officers shall have primary responsibility for the enforcement of this ordinance, with the Somerville Police Department having secondary responsibility. Prior to issuing a citation, the officer must inquire of the person as to the reason they are not wearing a mask. If the person does not fall under one of the exemptions, the officer shall issue a warning and furnish the person with a mask free of charge. Second violations will result in the citations as provided herein. Section 10, suspension of contrary local provisions. During the emergency term as defined in Section 12 below, any ordinance, resolution, policy, or bylaw of the town that conflicts with the provisions hereof shall be and is hereby suspended and superseded. Section 11, expiration of ordinance, extension of emergency term. As provided by South Carolina Code 5-7-250D, this ordinance shall expire automatically as of the 61st day following the date of enactment, the emergency term, unless at the council meeting adopting this ordinance, a sooner termination date is chosen. Notwithstanding the foregoing, however, council may extend the emergency term by emergency ordinance for one or more additional terms, each of no more than 60 days, provided that the total duration of the emergency term shall not exceed 6 months without enacting an ordinance in the ordinary course. Section 12, severability. Should any provision, section, paragraph, sentence, or word of this ordinance be rendered or declared invalid by any federal court action in a court of competent jurisdiction or by reason of any preemptive legislation, the remaining provisions, sections, paragraphs, sentences, or words of this ordinance, as hereby adopted, shall remain in full force and effect. Section 13, effective date and time. This emergency ordinance shall take effect at 12 p.m. on the 9th day of July 2020 and shall expire at 11:59 p.m. on the 13th day of August 2020 unless renewed or sooner terminated by council.
All right. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the mask ordinance as stated.
I'll second that.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make a motion that we amend our ordinance and that we would highly encourage our citizens to wear the mask instead of mandate.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we got a motion by Ms. Kimmett to amend the motion to recommend, you say, rather than mandate.
Highly encourage.
Pam?
Highly encourage.
Highly encourage. And who seconded that? You, Mr. Mack?
I did.
Okay. Any discussion on that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. When we first brought this up, I guess it was about a week and a half ago. At that time, The residents, I think, had 24, 48 hours. They knew what was going to be on our agenda at that time. And the council members and the mayor, we received many emails from people in the area. And I would say almost every one of those emails that we received wanted us to pass this. After it was passed, that is when I personally, and I'm thinking all of my emails, your names were on them also. Now we have an overwhelming amount of people that are emailing us and calling us saying that they're not for this. And so I do want to make it clear for our citizens, in the beginning, we didn't have anybody that was opposed to this. It came after it was passed. I thank all the people that did email, text, call, etc., that they expressed either for or against it. I appreciate that. I appreciate the people that called in today. This is something that I feel that should really come down from a higher office, from the governor, and that we shouldn't be having to do this at a town level, but we have been put in this position now. So that's why I'd like to change my voting and highly encourage instead of mandate.
I would like to disagree with that. As somebody that's halfway through my isolation, because I do have the COVID virus, when I am done with this isolation, I will continue to wear a mask out of respect for the people around me and the other people that are in the stores and restaurants. Yes, I may frequent them much more than I do now, but I would give that. And of the people that emailed me against it, I will say greater than 50% of the emails were the exact same form that was copied and pasted. And is that a real? It's just a group of people sending out stuff. And of the people I've heard, they are not going to wear a mask no matter what you do. So in protection of the public, I think we need to make it mandatory and help as many of the people as we can. Most of those people that I heard for the ordinance were business owners in downtown that were unable to get people to wear a mask when they entered their businesses, and their rights were being violated.
You know, I'm not for taking people's rights, you know, and that's the biggest complaint that I've gotten, is not so much the wearing of the mask, as the fact that we're making people wear a mask. You know, and that's what I saw more in the emails and the stuff that I got, is that, you know, we're taking people's rights away from them by making them wear the mask and not doing what Ms. Kim is saying, even though I did hear from a few people, talked with a lady this morning that said, you know, a policeman stopped her because she didn't have her mask on, or she did have a mask on or something. And she did have a medical problem. And Ms. Kim and us, the lady who lived in your subdivision that you called me about yesterday, we had a long meeting this morning. And her biggest complaint was, you know, personal rights. And that's what I got a big problem with, because I'm such a rights person about government taking people's rights. So it's hard for me to vote yes the last time, just on account of that. I mean, but I'd also talked to two doctors, like I told you all last time, who the president of MUSC and his disease specialist down there, to still feel the same way. They're so strong about this mask working, which we read and hear every day that they don't work, you know, by a whole bunch of other people and doctors, like the doctor that wrote one of the letters today. You know, you don't know what to think when you're in our position. And that's really a mixed up position to be in when you're in our shoes. I'm sure all of us. Bob is real strict how he feels because he's sitting there with the virus. You know, he's got it. I was tested this week and I came back negative, thank goodness, because of the problems we've had here at Town Hall. But anyway, it's a ticklish situation to be in. But we're all in a bad situation when talking about council government making a decision where we all got mixed feelings on it, you know. Anyway, I don't know how I'm going to vote yet. I'm still sitting here wanting to hear from some other ones of y'all that's got.
Mr. Mayor, can I say a few words? Can you hear me? I was unmuted a minute ago. I think I'm muted now. I think you can hear me.
Yeah.
This thing is about saving lives. I think we're looking at it the wrong way. I understand that there's a lot of concern about the government taking people's rights, but I think government does have a responsibility to save lives. Now you look at what's happening in South Carolina. South Carolina is when we first started this thing, I felt good about us, particularly in Somerville area, because we had very few cases and that sort of thing. But now we're spiking, you know, we're getting a lot of cases. And the point is, people have got a right, you know, we are local government, and I heard Kimmer say that this should come from a higher power, maybe the governor's office. But as a municipality, as a local government, we do set things that take people's rights away. For instance, the noise ordinance. You know, we have people complain all the time that they do fireworks and they're too loud, and people complain, and they say, well, I got a right to do this. You know, we discharging firearms in the city limits. We do so many things, the local government, to limit people, to save lives and make it a safer place for people to live, for the general population, the larger population to live. But here's the bottom line. Just like smoking, you've got a right to smoke, but you don't have a right to give me lung cancer or give me secondhand smoke and make me sick. And this is what we're talking about. And there's so many things about this virus yet we don't know. And all we know right now that the safety precautions is to wear a mask, keep a distance from people in a closed setting, and to keep washing your hands and that sort of thing. But again, people are dying from this thing. And pretty soon, all of us are probably going to know somebody that's been infected by it or have died from it. And I think we do have a responsibility as a local government to protect the people in our jurisdiction.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, I was taking the same position that Kim was taking now last month, and I didn't prevail on it. I would have preferred at that time to go ahead with a strong recommendation. Since then, I've done a lot of thinking about it, and I realize that the public opinion appears to be against the mask. I will note that a lot of those emails that we got, I think maybe the majority of them against the mask were not from the town limits. But it just boils down to a question whether or not this is a government overreach. And I just want to quote something real briefly from Thomas Jefferson on the proper function of government. Thomas Jefferson said, a wise and frugal government shall restrain men from injuring one another, shall leave them otherwise free to regulate their own pursuits of industry and improvement, and shall not take from the mouth of labor the bread it is earned. This is the sum of good government. So I think another way of saying that is your rights stop where you infringe on somebody else's rights. And I don't equate this to being something like a seatbelt law where you're trying to get someone to protect them from themselves, or a helmet law or something. This is designed to protect other people, not the person you're mandating to wear the mask, but the elderly person, the sick person that they may come into contact with. And I'm looking at this thing now more like the example Mr. Brown made of it's against the law to shoot your gun in a crowded residential area. That's not to protect you when you're shooting your gun. That takes away your right to potentially injure some other citizen. The same thing with you got to stop when you see a school bus stop. You can't pass it. It's not to protect you, it's to protect those children that you could injure. And this is what this mask ordinance is doing. And right now, we're at the pinnacle. We're that out of the entire United States is way ahead of everybody else. South Carolina is way ahead of the rest of the country, and we're way ahead of the rest of South Carolina. So we're right at the peak of it. It is bad, and I don't think it's asking a whole lot to ask somebody on part of the time they're out and about, not all the time, but just when you're close to somebody, when you have the potential to spread this thing, to wear a mask for a while. I mean, I don't think that's a big deal. If we don't stop this thing, we're looking at another government shutdown, and I don't think the economy can take that. And I don't know what else we can do as a council other than mandate the mask. It may not work. And you have experts saying one thing and then another, and just confusing everybody. But I think the best information we got is this is serious. It is killing people, and the mask can help. So I'm gonna vote to, against Kim's motion to amend based on what I just said.
I appreciate, Mr. Bailey, the words that you're saying, and I agree with most of what you're saying. That's why I feel that people should be highly encouraged. I would wear my mask out because I care about other people, but I feel that it shouldn't be mandated. I feel that they should have that option, and I would hope that they would wear their mask, but I'm gonna vote against it.
Mr. Mayor, I side with Mr. Bailey, and I know that Mr. Bailey is a very strong constitutionalist, but I think when I look at this, as distasteful as it is to me to enforce a regulation that one might fear is you have a choice to do it two ways consistently, regardless of what agency you come from. There's all different types of arguments on this, but there are only three common things that you hear in this thing: wear a mask, wash your hands, and keep 6 feet away. That's been pretty consistent for a pretty long period of time. And I look at it as this is not right now about individual rights. This is about what is the right thing to do. And I will vote against the motion and in favor of extending the ordinance.
Yes, and I agree. And I know Walter is very strong at rights. I mean, and both of us voted against the smoking ordinance. And I voted against the smoking ordinance because it is the right of a business owner to allow people to smoke. But people that don't want to be there can walk up, open the door, and turn around and leave. And they are not forced to be in a place where they're being harmed. This is forcing people to be in a place where they may be harmed by people who have just publicly said they would never wear a mask, period. So asking them to do it is not going to do it. And we do need to protect people that can't, because unlike smoking, which two of the restaurant owners have come back and thanked me for that vote, but their businesses are better now. So it's much different than taking somebody's rights away. I'm doing it for the rights of the business owners to protect themselves and their families, because people are coming into town, Hutchinson Square and Short Central, and refusing to wear a mask, coming in their businesses and touching all their products when they're asked just to look until they're interested. And people think it's their right to do what they want because they want to do it. And that's different than the smoking ordinance, where you could voluntarily withdraw yourself.
All right, any more discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I would just briefly, I seconded Kim's motion primarily because I thought it was an important motion, an important issue, and that it really shouldn't die for a lack of a second. When we met roughly 10 days ago, in an emergency meeting, that was probably my most difficult vote on council. I've been on council about 9 years. And voting to mandate our citizens to wear a mask was one of the 2 or 3 most difficult votes, maybe the most difficult vote that I have taken since I've been on council. And I guess one of the reasons that I did support it was that it was for a very short period of time. It was for 9 days. In that meeting, though, we discussed this very issue of it's at the heart of Kim's motion, which was, do we mandate this or do we highly encourage, strongly encourage? I think Hanahan strongly encourages, maybe Month Corner as well. Goose Creek Council took the position they should strongly encourage, and then the mayor, I guess, overruled them and issued an edict, which I guess Goose Creek can do things differently than we can. My preference 10 days ago and my preference today would be that this not be mandated, that this be something that's strongly encouraged. I don't think the motion is going to pass, the motion to amend, so we'll be left at that point with extending it. I may have a motion after this motion. I understand that the idea is to extend it till August 13th. I'm going to have to really think hard about whether I can support having a mandate in place of this nature. I guess at that point, it would be a total of about 45 days, but I can count, and I know that Ms. Garden-Schmidt's motion is going to fail, but motion to amend is going to fail. But at this point, I'm inclined to support it.
Mr. Mayor and Mr. McIntosh, if I'd like to, if I could, to remind us of 2 things. One being we can call an emergency meeting to change this as we did to put it in place. But when we were having our discussions last time, that you happened to be involved in, one of the things that we talked about was, well, what happens if things slow down? And what could we do? Well, we said then, well, if we see that, we've got the option to reverse this in 9 days. Well, the exact opposite of slow down has taken place. And so that's kind of why I feel as strongly as I do about the right thing to do is move forward to the next council meeting with the same ordinance in place, knowing that if there are facts and other things that become available to us that say medically, for whatever reason, this is idiotic, or we see a super change in trend that makes it logical to make a change, that we have the ability to do that.
Okay, let's call for the question. All in favor of Kim's amendment, signify by raising your right hand. Okay, 2. All opposed, raise your right hand. Okay, motion failed. Okay, now did we have, now let's go back to the original motion. Any more discussion on the original motion? Bill? You don't have anything? Okay, so it's gonna go from now to when?
Midnight of the next council meeting, or 11:59, which I think is July the 13th.
August
the 13th.
13th.
It's 35 days. I did count for you guys. It's 35 days.
From today. From today.
Today.
Right.
Okay.
So for a total of 45.
Okay, all in favor of this motion signify by raising your right hand. Opposed likewise. Motion carried. Okay, where are we now? Executive session?
I'll make a motion, we go into executive session.
Wait a minute.
I've got
hold
one
on.
more thing. Hang on.
Got one other item.
All right, we have consideration of an ordinance to temporarily suspend the normal operating procedures of the town by closing town hall and annex and authorizing the town administrator and mayor to develop and implement a plan to ensure the orderly continuance of town services.
Oh, okay. I'll make a motion that we pass that.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All in
Um,
favor? Oh, excuse me.
Mr. Mayor, I just, as a point of clarification and just for the public, this motion, this ordinance, this is an emergency ordinance, so it doesn't need a second reading. This would close town hall for the next 14 days. Is that correct?
Well, if needed, yeah, you know, it's the same thing that we did before.
Well, that was my hope was that this ordinance was going to give you and Ms. Vance the discretion, but as if I read the ordinance correctly, as written, the ordinance would close town hall for the next 14 days. Am I misreading it?
Well,
GW in number 3, it does say that it will be closed for 2 weeks, and I think that was the consensus that we thought was among council, that we would close it and allow for the number of people that we have out now that have tested positive and who are out getting their tests for all of that to clear it up and to allow us to have the both buildings disinfected by a professional company.
Well, I suggested we do 14 days because of the number of infections we've had and people have been exposed to it. And, you know, they recommend a 14-day quarantine if you're exposed. So I thought, you know, we got to protect our employees. We got to do what we can to protect one another. And so I thought it was a good idea.
I do want to add that this doesn't mean this would be like it was before. Everyone that could work from home would be working from home. Nothing would go undone. We would have the same phone numbers and the same operations we had before, which we received no complaints about whenever it was done before.
Yeah, you're just reducing the exposure to employees.
Yes, sir.
That means this building and that building will be closed to the public, but there will be some of us here, just like it was before. Rich will probably be over another building, GW. Rebecca will probably be here if she like she was last time, myself and Jill and whoever else, you know, some people will be here.
And members of the public will be able to, permitting and that sort of thing will still be going forward, just as it did during the shutdown.
And nothing will stop, just like it did before.
Yes, sir. We're just asking that we'll have the building disinfected, and that if you return, if you were exposed, you have to show that you've had a negative test or that you've gone through your 14-day period.
But the language about shutting down for 14 days applies to the general public.
Yes, sir.
Right, that's right.
Is there I'm glad that some of the rest of y'all had a chance to read the ordinance, because my discussions were that I thought we were talking about something that not an implementation tonight, but something that the mayor and the administrator would discuss and implement as needed. It appears to me as I'm not sure why 14 days is there. It would appear to me as though we've got many people who have not tested positive. And what is recommended there is more of a 10-day period. And it would seem to me that 10 days from now would be shutting down now and opening up a week from this coming Monday, where all of that same cleansing and everything else could be done.
Well, Mr.
And
Jenkins,
and the administrator would have a chance to extend that if they saw it was necessary.
Mr. Jenkins, your understanding was my understanding. I was surprised when I read the ordinance that it essentially mandated a 14-day closing. I thought what we were doing was giving the mayor discretion. So for that reason, I would move to amend the ordinance to state that it will shut down, that the town hall will shut down to the general public for the next 10 days, but grant the mayor the authority to extend if necessary, but not beyond August 13th, which is our next council meeting.
I'll second that motion.
Well, I think that's what Rebecca and I talked about, was just leave it up to us and we'll get people back in here as quick as we can. We're not going to stay. I don't think we wanted, Rebecca, we didn't talk about it being mandatory for 14 days, did we?
I think that the discussion among council members on emails said 14 days. So that's why I think GW put that in there.
Well, I wasn't part of those emails. My understanding,
not either.
My understanding of talking to the other council members is we were giving the mayor the discretion to close as needed. But with my motion, and it's now been seconded, the ordinance will say what we thought it was going to say, which is closer to what we thought it was going to say. Town hall will close to the general public for the next 10 days, but the mayor will have the discretion to extend if necessary, but not beyond midnight on August 13th.
Fine with me.
That's motion and second. Any discussion more?
I have a question. Would that be in place of number 3, the town hall and town act shall be closed?
Yes, they
Okay.
would say it shall be closed for 10 days instead of 14, but the mayor will, the mayor will have the authority to extend if necessary, but not beyond 11:59 or midnight, however you want to say, 11:59, I guess, on August 13th.
Okay.
I do have a
10
question.
days
All of us
is going to be
that tested-
July the 13th.
A week from Monday, GW, whatever that is.
Bob, you had a question?
I do. For
Yes,
those of us who have tested positive, after my 10-day quarantine is done, do I need to get a negative test before I come back to town hall?
It's not in the ordinance.
Rebecca,
Okay.
we were talking about our, employees getting a negative test, weren't we, Rebecca?
And I think we were just, if they have a positive test, they need to wait their 14 days. That's the way we've been treating all the rest of our employees. If they have a negative test, they have a negative test. So Mr. Jackson, no, it would just be that you've done your 14 days. Yeah, you're 14 days in purgatory, unfortunately. And then for everybody else, you've.
So your answer to your question is no, Bob.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That would be part of the plan.
Open arms.
But anyway, that's where the 14 days originated, but I can live with 10.
Okay. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand.
Wait a second. GW was trying to.
Oh, excuse me, GW.
I was just going to say that whether you have to do a positive test or that type of thing, that's going to be part of the plan that the mayor and the town administrator develop.
Okay.
It's not in the ordinance, so.
Yeah.
Y'all, I didn't mean to interrupt the vote. Go ahead.
Okay.
And this is the vote on my motion to amend.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know you amended. I thought that was in the motion.
I made a motion to amend to change it from 14 days to 10. But the closing of town hall from 14 days to 10, but to grant you, Mr. Mayor, the authority to extend if necessary to 11:59 on August 13th.
Okay, all in favor of this amendment, signify by raising your right hand. Opposed likewise. Motion carried. All in favor of the original motion signify by raising your right hand. Opposed likewise. Oh, somebody's taking the minutes.
You should see my office.
I tried.
Good. Okay, now we're going to executive session. If I can get a motion on that. I think I had a motion.
I move that I'll second for executive session.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. I'll raise your right hand. Excuse me. Opposed? Okay, we're going to executive session.
Hey,
Y'all meet
Mayor,
me in-
Mayor, give me about 30 seconds. Make sure y'all are getting in the executive session on your own here.
Okay. I was
Thank you.
getting
Y'all
ready
have a great
to
night.
tell- I was getting ready to tell everybody to meet me in the council chambers.